Every Monday, our Monday morning quarterback, Joel Klatt, joins us from Fox Sports. We'll get to the game he had, Texas-Kansas State. We'll look ahead to Michigan-Penn State, a huge game he's got this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But as he joins us now on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline, as always presented by MyBookie.ag, code NEXTROUND right now gets you that 50% sign-on bonus up to $1,000. More money from MyBookie.ag, code NEXTROUND. First of all, Klatt, I want to say good morning. I hope you're doing well.
Good morning. How are you guys
Doing
today?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Wow, that sounds like we're in a courtroom and you're setting him up for, a tough cross-examination.
Yeah. You got that. I got that vibe a little bit too. Okay, here we go. Fire away.
Do you mind spelling your last name and giving us your county of residence, please? So you asked going in. It's so random. I saw the video this morning on TikTok, and I know you've commented on Alabama last night, but I asked you to do it again for our audience. You can go watch all Klatt's videos. You asked the question: Can they run that football and play that physical style against LSU and win the football game and limit LSU to enough points? They did that. Your reaction to Alabama is what?
Thoroughly impressed. That was the best that they've looked this year. I think you would agree. They were really physical at the line of scrimmage, and they did kind of what we would expect Bama to do, which is they dominated the later stages of the game physically, and made it increasingly difficult for LSU to keep up. Jaden couldn't stay in the game. They got to him. The Milroe was really good. His decision-making process has gotten better and better and faster as the season has gone along. And that's in a lot of different ways, not just the way that he throws the ball and his decisions of where he's throwing the ball and the timing with which he throws the ball, but also his decisions to use his legs. They're not hindered. They're not slow. And as soon as he sees something open, he takes it. And you see the explosiveness that he possesses. So all of that has been really, really good. And Bama now, all of a sudden, to me, it's like, okay, well, here we go. They're going to have a win and in. They're going to have 60 minutes against Georgia, and if they win that game, they're going to go to the playoff. At least in my estimation. Now, I know that there's a lot of teams out there that feel like they're going to have an argument even with a loss, but this team has just continued to develop. And again, you think about what they were at the line of scrimmage. Texas beat them up at the line of scrimmage. You guys would agree.
Yes.
And I think that they've just gotten better and better and better. And this is what I said on my show, and this is what I'm so impressed with Nick Saban. There's no examples of guys winning at this level through this many cycles of styles, coaching staffs, recruits. And it sticks out to me that here he is late in his career, probably having the most fun he's ever had, trying to find the identity of this team and find what can be successful for this team. And yet it to me, it speaks to the rigidness that he has when it comes to the standard and the process, and yet the pliability when it comes to the style of the way that they're going to do it. And other coaches, I'm just telling you, and I meet with all of them, are backwards, and they don't even know it. They are more than willing to let standards go in order to acquire talent and the types of talent and treat different talent differently. And so they're not rigid when it comes to standard and process, but they are rigid when it comes to their scheme, their style of the way that they feel like they should win the football game. And because of that, they don't have success over cycles of whether it's coaching staffs or recruits. And Nick does that. And this year has been incredibly impressive. Although, I was sitting there and talking with my guy. I've got an unbelievable guy who helps me out editorially, Steve, and Steve helps me on the games and the podcast. And we were talking last night after the show, and both of us love Bama and love what they did. And they were the most impressive team Saturday. And then he just kind of mentions, he was like, because I'm just talking about Saban and I'm going on and on. And this is not even on the air. And I'm like, man, this guy, dude, this guy is incredible. And he goes, it's still the most talented roster in college football. And I was like, you're right.
Hey, so I don't think people are really surprised that USC loses another game and gives up 52 points. Now Alex Grinch is out. What was interesting was at the end of the game where Caleb Williams goes and finds his mom and how emotional he was. And I'm one of those, I would love to see this kid finish the season. I still think there was something to massively play for going into this past weekend. But with that type of emotion, it just seemed a little strange. We talked about it earlier. Do you think there's a shot that he shuts it down?
I hope not. The first 2 picks in the draft last year didn't, quarterbacks wise. Now, one of them was in the playoffs, so, CJ was in the playoffs, so he wasn't going to shut it down. Bryce didn't affect his draft stock going and playing Kansas State. I still believe that this position is a reps position. So whether you're still playing for a Heisman or a national championship or a conference championship, you are still developing, always. You're still developing, and this notion that you're a finished product and you can all of a sudden shut it down, I don't think is correct. Now, if he does, I'm just going to be one of the. I'm not going to be one of those that's like, I can't believe this. This is selfish. I'm not going to. It's his decision. If he wants to do that, then it's his decision. Having said that, though, it's still a position that requires development. Even when you're the best player in college football, even when you're the hands down number 1 pick, things can happen to you on the field that you will learn from every single day. And I would always go to this. If you go back to Tom Brady's first Super Bowl, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, so bear with me, but Tom Brady's first Super Bowl, and then you look at the quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls since then. So go back to, what was that, 01, right, when he beat the Rams. And you go back since then, I believe it's 10 or 11 guys have won Super Bowls. You average out their college career, they are experienced players. And I know Caleb is already experienced, but the average of those Super Bowl winning quarterbacks since Tom Brady won his first is something in the mid 30s when it comes to starts. It's well over, 1,600 passing attempts on average. We just don't have guys that don't develop. So I think that being said, is there something to going and playing the sport, playing the position? Yeah, there is. And so I hope he still does that. But yeah, it certainly seemed interesting, the outpouring of emotion that we saw from Caleb. And last thing that I would say is there's been some notion that, like, well, Caleb doesn't care. Look at how much money he's making. Look at he's going to be the number 1 pick. He cares. He cares about this. I know him decently, having, in the LA area, seeing him at functions and so on and so forth. The guy cares about winning. He wants to win. He's competitive. And that was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, and that's how I took the sobbing was, man, I'm doing everything I can, and we're still not getting over the hump. Joel Klatt's with us. I want to ask you about Michigan, because we've been waiting all year for this game, finally to have a test on the other sideline. Yeah. And I got asked yesterday, well, what do you think Michigan's weakness is? And I was like, I really don't know. I don't know if they've got one. If I asked you what's Michigan's weakest link right now, what would you say it is?
It's a good question. They're not as explosive and dominant as of a run team as they were a year ago. They get the small chunks like they always have, kind of the boa constrictor style, and they just kind of squeeze the life out of you. The difference is that last year they would also break off 1 or 2 runs a game of 30, 40, 50 yards. They don't do that anymore. And so now that's on JJ's shoulders. Now, the difference is like JJ has taken the next step, and their passing game is more explosive than what it was a year ago. And then the last thing that I would say is I don't know how great they are defending the pass, because they don't have a dominant pass rusher like they've had in the past. That defense needs hard edges. Right. This is why Aiden was so good. And then, we'll see that. I know everyone wants me to sit there and be like, well, they don't know the signs. That's the weakness. But the fact of the matter is, the last 2 games after all of this came to light, they've done exactly what they have done to everybody, which is just squeeze the life out of people. They have been totally dominant. No game has been in question whatsoever. Purdue scored all of their points either garbage time under 20 seconds or because of short fields, a muffed punt or a 4th down that Michigan went for on their own 34-yard line. That's the only reason Purdue had points. Same thing with Michigan State. Michigan was going to beat them by 1,000 or as many as they wanted to. This is the most dominant team Granted, they've played a really poor schedule, but so has Georgia, to be fair. And they've been much more consistent and much more dominant during the course of the year.
Joel Klatt is with us, presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on to MyBookie.ag. Get that 50% sign-on bonus there. They'll match it up to $1,000, 50% there at MyBookie.ag. Code next round. MyBookie.ag. Code next round. Michigan State, Penn State. The game we've been waiting for, finally, for Michigan to get challenged is the big noon kick on Fox.
And by the way, finally, Penn State showed some life offensively here in the last week. So that makes this even more interesting.
There's no doubt. So you spent a lot of time around Texas because this is another team now Alabama fans are watching with all these teams in front of them. Is the feeling Quinn Ewers will be back for the TCU game Saturday?
Yeah, I talked with him. He's going to try. He wants to play against TCU. He's going to have a great shot, and I think it's just going to matter how safe they want to be. Now, I'm not saying that doctors are influenced, but players and coaches are influenced by what's going on the field. And I guarantee you, the way that the last 2.5 quarters went for Malik Murphy against Kansas State, everyone in the coaching staff was thinking to themselves like, oh my goodness, I pray that Quinn's going to be okay. And he himself, I sat and talked with him. He had a grade 2 AC joint separation. We compared lumps. You guys have seen mine, you know, and we talked about it. And he said, like, I really think I can be back this week. Now, that's not official. So, you know, no one go out there and report. I'm not reporting anything. Quinn's going to try to play. And quite frankly, they need him to. Because after you got outside of the script of the first quarter, Malik Murphy was nowhere to be found. And in fact, he was a clear hindrance on that team, gave Kansas State the opportunity to get back in the game. And, you know, so there's part of me that's like, if Quinn can't go, do you run Arch out?
Oh, boy. I mean,
I don't know, man.
But how good
that was just like it was. They should have got beat, and the reason was Malik Murphy.
I know.
I hate to say it, but that's the truth.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's all about the script, why do you not just go Scorsese and just write a longer script?
Hey, why was Avery Johnson not playing more?
It's a good question. They tried him. Avery, he's not just a runner. He can throw it more. He can throw it more than they showed. But it's not like he got all the reps in practice. And when it became very clear, Kansas State was not going to run the ball against T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, those two tackles. Bama found that out firsthand, right, in that game in September. Those two tackles, I think, as a tandem, probably the best in the country. And it was going to be a throw-only game, and they needed the experience of Will Howard, his decision-making, and it turned out to be the correct decision. With Avery, I believe that the package of plays that you have set for him have more lean bend towards the run game because of his speed and explosiveness. They tried him in the third series. It was abundantly clear run game just wasn't going to happen. It became a pass-only game very quickly in that middle of the second quarter, and at that point, it was going to be Will Howard's show. I mean, still a guy who won a Big 12 title, you know, so he did remarkably well. I thought that some of the play selection in the red zone. Brownie, I know you and I were texting about that on Saturday. Yeah. And then the last decision for Kansas State. I'm sorry, like I don't buy in the fact that you've got to, like, if you're a road team, you always have to go for it. I generally agree with that. Like if you put yourself in position where one snap can win the game as a road team, as a dog, you take it. But if you look at that game in its totality, there was no reason to believe that Texas was going to be able to move the ball in overtime. None. In fact, they were going to just end up kicking field goals. And so for my money, Kansas State was the better team at the point. You extend the game, and the more snaps that are going to take place, the more chances I thought the Wildcats were going to win the game. So I just felt like that was a poor decision, putting the snap on the 4-yard line. If it was the 1-yard line, it's a lot different. But the 4-yard line, you've got to basically just drop back. They read the 2-receiver side. It's like, you know, I would have loved a different play call at that point, but, you know, I thought Kansas State should have kicked the field goal.
And by the way, 1st and goal from the 4 in overtime, a touchdown walks it off. Nick Sirianni lines up behind Will Howard and pushes him in 4 straight plays for the win and walk it off in Austin. As we get ready for another huge weekend, Bo Nix was
and by the way, Bama fans were probably just like dying watching that, right?
Yes,
like
yes, I was. I mean, yes.
Sorry, Bama
yes,
fans.
they were. 6 touchdowns from Bo Nix, and now he gets USC.
Yeah. How about that? He's going to have 8,000 touchdowns this week. Nick should be in the Heisman. He should go to New York for sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And that Oregon team, man, I get it. They lost to Washington. I get it. I think they could win the national championship.
Me too.
I really do. Like, they're outstanding at the line of scrimmage, and he's playing at such a high level. And you know what he's not done? He hasn't gone all of a sudden Bo Nix in 1 week on us. Now, maybe that pops up, you know, and you guys all know what I'm talking about, where he just throws out like a wild performance where you're like, we didn't expect that to come. But his efficiency and decision-making, and he seems, man, when I sat and talked to him in Utah, he seems so grounded. And one of the things that he said to me really resonated, because I was an older guy when I played, and I was married my last year, and he's married, which, by the way, how his wife changed her name. Like, if your name is Izzy Smoke, you don't change your name.
That's right.
Not at all.
I digress. His perspective is just something I really appreciated, because he didn't expect to have this year. And all of us that played a long time, I started over 35, I think 36 games, you know, which was a lot. He's on 56 now, which is wild. And the perspective you gain in terms of like, boy, if I had one more year, you know, knowing what I know now. And by the way, any of us can do this. It doesn't have to just be sports related. Think back to any situation in your life that you wish you would have handled just a little bit differently, even if you had success doing it. It can be in business. It can be whatever. It can be a relationship. And you just think to yourself, boy, if I had one more bite at the apple. Well, guess what? Bo Nix has that extra bite at the apple. And I think the reason that we've seen him play so well and so efficient is the lessons he's learned when he throws out those games where he's not as efficient and doesn't make good choices and his heart rate gets going too fast. And there's something to that now. And his perspective, man, he was very calm. You know, I could tell that he wasn't living and dying with every throw, which young players do and veterans tend not to do. They're dangerous now. If they can get in, they're a dangerous team.
All right, he is Joel Klatt. You will see him on the Big Noon Kick, Michigan, Penn State, Saturday, 11 o'clock on Fox, 11 Central, noon.
Could we see a Bama-Oregon national championship?
Potentially.
Bo Nix playing Bama.
Wouldn't that be funny?
That'd be amazing.
Wouldn't that be funny?
I feel like it'll be Oregon versus the SEC champion, whoever that is, in the semifinal.
Like a 1-4?
Yeah.
Could be.
But not if it's Bama.
Yeah, I think
No,
Alabama
not if
would
it's
be
Bama.
the 4.
You're right,
Oregon
you're
could be, man, they're probably not going to be the 1.
Oregon could be one.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah,
the
Michigan,
one
Ohio
team,
State.
I know you're trying to get out of here, but man, this feels so much like 2014, the first playoff year, where it's like Florida State has this path that we know they're not going to get beat. And we're all sitting there like, do we really think they're one of the 4 best? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if they are, guys.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But you're
Their
right.
fans hate me anyways, like I care.
Hey, but if hypothetically, if Alabama played Georgia, let's just say that's the matchup in Atlanta, without Brock Bowers, who do you think wins that game?
Man. Coin flip without Bowers. 3.5 Georgia with Bowers.
Fair, yeah.
Tight game.
That's
either way.
what I would say. Tight. I would say tight.
Klatt, thank you. Have a great week.
You got it, guys.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
guys.
Joel Klatt with us, courtesy of MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag. Get that sign-on bonus 50% up to $1,000. That's how much they love having you there at MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag. Code next round for that bonus.